This is the second part of my story about travelling overland to the Ukraine many years ago. Now, we left the church in Hamburg in the morning. We got on the Autobahn and we started to drive. And then we stopped in a service station. The two buses pulled off the service station. People went to the loo, they bought drinks, so and so. And I noticed the two drivers of the buses who had little pieces of cardboard and one pencil between them. And I went over to observe. What are they doing? They were drawing a map on a piece of cardboard. This was the map of how we were going to get from where we were to the border of whichever country we were going through next. And it was at this point that I realised just how profoundly disorganised this whole event was. And now I was, on the continent, in the midst of it all. They didn't even have a road map, either of them. And we had no mobile phones, we had no way of connecting the two buses. And it was pretty scary. And again, I was told if I tried to interfere or say something like, why don't we buy a map? Or why don't we arrange a meeting time or a stop, that I should keep out of the way. It was nothing to do with me, and so on. So that's what I did, and watched to see what would happen next. Now, we were being told originally that from Aberdeen to Kiev, where we were stopping first, was about 18 hours drive, 14 hours or 18 hours, something like that. But then we had heard, oh no, but that's going through Poland, and the roads in Poland this winter, there's been a terrible winter and the roads are terrible, and no, we mustn't go that way. So on some advice from somebody, we were instead taking the most unbelievable route that involved crossing several different borders, through the Czech Republic, through Slovakia, through Hungary, I can't remember where else. And so we soon found that we had problems when we came to the borders. It was the middle of the summer, there were long queues, these buses had no toilets on them, and we would be sitting for, I remember sitting for hours, because we had all these goods with us in this. We had all these medicines and goods, and everything had to be, it was a whole different process than just driving your car across the border. And I remember it was very hot and very arduous. However, the worst of it came when we finally came to the Hungarian border, and from Hungary we were going to cross into the Ukraine, if I remember right. We came to the border and everything stopped, because they wanted bribes at the border. And the leader of our buses, the leader of the whole trip, was not under any circumstance going to pay any bribes or give any of these goods away. And so they wouldn't let us through. And it was boiling hot, and we were stuck for hours and hours and hours. And it was like this standoff between these two men, the border control guy and the leader of our expedition. And as we were there for a long time, we got talking to different bus drivers and lorry drivers who were crossing that border, and many people said this border crossing is notorious for this bribery, and this guy will not let you through. But no, we insisted and we persisted, and it went on and it went on. And we didn't have a lot of stuff with us. We didn't have a lot of food or water or anything. And then the next thing was they took all our passports, and then we were not allowed to sit in the bus. We all had to get out of the bus, and we We had paper and pens, I remember, and we got off the bus and we were standing in the sun. We didn't know initially how long this was going to be, so nobody had thought to take sunscreen or hats or anything like that. We thought we were just getting off on the way to something else, but no, they left us in the sun at the side of the road for a very long time, and we had all these kids with us, you know. So we were telling people who were driving into Hungary, any cars that we could stop, we were telling them what was happening, and we asked people to tell the Hungarian embassy what was happening, that we were stuck. And we had all these kids, and we had all this goods, you know, aid. And then nothing happened, and then one of our group managed somehow to get a lift to somewhere. He crept off, he got a lift, he got to a phone, and he rang the embassy in Hungary and was told that they didn't want anything to do with us. So then we had been abandoned, and then it began to be a bit scary. And the next thing that happened was that the Hungarian army appeared with machine guns. And we were surrounded by these soldiers with guns, knowing that this border guy was really not a nice person. The British embassy in Hungary had abandoned us, and nobody was helping, and it was hot, and I just thought we're just all going to get sunstroke, or who knows what's going to happen. It was very, very tense. The atmosphere between these soldiers and us and the guards was just awful. Nevertheless, I think we'd been praying for quite a lot of this day already, but we were really praying in earnest now for safety, that we would come out of this safely. And in the end, our leader backed down, and we got all the passports back. We got back on our buses, and we left, but we couldn't go through Hungary. We had to go a different way, a longer way. But what was amazing about that day that stayed with me for a long time was how long we were out in the sun with very little water or no water and no sunscreen, and nobody was burnt, and nobody got sunstroke, nobody was ill, the children were okay, and we got back in and we carried on.